guys, today I am working on something that I've been thinking about for a few weeks, and I'm going to just satisfy this urge now or try to. I've been wanting to make a bucket hat with my bananas on the outside. This is my banana sheet that I found on the curb. And I can't find a good free bucket hat pattern. So I started by just tracing about an inch outside of a hat that I already had around the brim of the hat. And I want this to be a nice perfect circle. So I draw one half of the circle, and then I draw an inner semicircle 4 inches in. At this point, I fold my fabric in half so I can cut along half the circle and actually cut out the entire circle. So I cut out both my outer and inner circles, and then I'm going to use this circular piece as a template for my outside piece of fabric as well. Here I'm just measuring to confirm that it is roughly the same size. And I measure how big the centerpiece is for this hat, so I get an idea of how big I want to make the strip that connects my brim and the top of my hat. And I decide on 3.5 inches. I mark that along my inside fabric, and then I cut it out. Now I'm just squaring off my edges to make sure that everything is perfect. And here comes the bananas. So I use my donut brim as the template for my banana piece on the outside, and I'm putting both right sides together here. I pin this donut onto the right side of my banana fabric, and then I'm going to cut out the large circle. Then I'm going to fold the fabric in half and cut out the inner circle as well. And my 2 inner circles, of course, are going to become the top of my hat. I tried for a little while to try to figure out the top circle at this point, but I decided I was going to wait until later. So then I move on to cutting out my 3.5 inch rectangular strip of fabric from my bananas. And same thing with these pieces, I'm pinning them right sides together in order to sew them. So now at my sewing machine, I start by sewing around just the outside edge of my big circle, the brim of my hat, and then I leave the inner circle open, and that just makes it easy to flip back right side out. And I don't mind having those unfinished seams on the inside, especially because this is just my first try. So then I cut off my threads, cut off any extra fabric outside of my seam, and I flip it right side out and have a look.
I'm just pressing with my fingers here to make sure that my seam is perfect. And next I move on to sewing my 3.5-inch strip, my centerpiece. I ran out of pins before, so I'm just making sure this is nice and pinned so nothing slips. And then I just sew along my long edges, leaving the short edges open. Once my long edges are sewn, I trim off any extra fabric and threads, and I flip this piece right side out. Again, press this with your fingers or with your iron to make sure the seams are lying flat. So next I want to attach my middle piece to my donut. So I take one of the long edges of my middle strip and I just start pinning that along the inside circle of my donut.
Inner circle is not big enough for my outer circle, but I think my outer circle is too big. So, because I put this on my head, it's like a collar. So I want it to be the size of my inner circle. So if I bring my two edges together right here, approximately head size. So yeah, I'll do that. And then I think I'm just gonna fold this under, and then when I do my rings around my brim, I'm gonna sew that together, so it's just gonna be thicker there, and I don't really care.
So I pinned the ends of my middle piece together, altered the brim in the way that I thought it was going to work, and started sewing that middle strip to the brim. And back to work. Now I'm pressing my two pieces that are now together, just making sure they're nice and flat. So the next thing that I did was to sew my rings around the brim, and I sewed a total of 4 rings about 1 inch apart. Be able to tell that the top part was the trickiest part for me. I wasn't sure if this was supposed to be the exact same size as the donut I cut out from my circle. So I brought back in my test hat and I did a lot of measuring and figured out that my inner circles I cut out were going to work. And so that made my life really easy. I just sewed these 2 circles together, right sides facing in, and I left about 2 inches to flip it right side out at the end. Now the time came to attach the top of my hat to the rest.
This might actually work. My mind is blown right now.
And it did work. It lined up just right.
So, theoretically.
So then with right sides pinned together, I got to sewing the top of my hat to my middle strip. And surprisingly, it looked like a hat.
So you might look at this and if you're watching this be like, what the hell, like that's hideous, that's such a fail. But next time I go to make a hat, I'm gonna know exactly what I need to do, because I made this one that turned out really wonky, obviously, with all that nonsense I did in the back. But my next one can be so much better because of that, and that's awesome. That's a win for me. So now that I know a sun hat, bucket hat thing is possible, and I semi know how to do it, I'm gonna try to make another one. I'm going to use this ridiculous alligator pattern that was a Hawaiian shirt, and I'm going to use the same on the inside, and this is a little bit stiffer, so hopefully it's going to make like a stiffer brim, just a little more structure.
The process here was the same, just a lot quicker this time. problem I had was that once I was pinning my middle section to my donut, it was again shorter. So I'm gonna have to remember that for next time that I need to make my brim a smaller circle. But once again, I just used the size of my middle section and I kind of folded the brim in that one spot, and it's thicker there, but it's okay.